Hi everybody, this is Philip Martin. This is On Film on Video for January 13th, 2023. We are in January in kind of a dead period. We just had does anybody really care about the Golden Globes anymore? I mean, I will be absolutely honest with you, and I have a thing about the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. If you paid any attention to this, to what I've written and these videos over the years, you will know I don't think much of them. I do think it's by and large an award that can be bought. The Golden Globe is, and that it's just it's just kind of a corrupt organization. They hold this big party, raise this money, and spend it on themselves. And they get the studios to, kind of underwrite what they do. And they're not legitimate, by and large, they are not legitimate film critics. And the journalism they do is not the sort of journalism that we would allow anywhere near our newspaper. It's bad. It's a bad organization. I stand by that. I've met a lot of these people. Some of them are very nice people. But the whole, taken as a whole, the organization is corrupt, and I don't like the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. I do not like them. So I am loath to give the Golden Globes a whole lot of attention. Now, we can do that in other parts of the newspaper because, yes, we can report on who won the Golden Globe. At this point, and it's Thursday, it's actually a day before, which is a day later than I normally do these videos, time management issues. I haven't even looked at who won. I think Banshees won something, which is good because I think it should, and maybe Kate Blanchett won something, but I really haven't looked at the list of winners, and I will at some point, but I don't really care. So that's my Golden Globe speech. If you like the Golden Globes, fine. It's fine. If you like the Oscars, it's fine. It's not the sort of thing that I really care about anyway, and I certainly don't care about the Hollywood Foreign Press Association. So, no Golden Globes coverage in movie style. Because we're a review-driven section that's about criticism. And I could criticize the Hollywood Foreign Press all I want, but that just seems kind of, pointless at this point after all they've been through. It's like kicking a dead wee donkey. Anyway, like I said, this is the doldrums. We have A Man Called Otto opening this week, and Dan Liebarger had a great opening line on that. Said, I might have liked this movie, I hadn't seen it already. And as far as I can tell, and I have not watched the whole thing, but as far as I can tell, it's basically a shot-by-shot remake of the 2015 film A Man Called Ove, which was a kind of a charming Swedish film that sort of got a little cloying at the end. I mean, I'm not saying it's a great film. I'm saying, it's a good, sturdy film, and I'm not even sure that A Man Called Otto is a lesser film. It may be, but it's sort of a redundant film. I mean, if you've seen Ove, you don't need to see Otto. Let's put it that way. If you haven't seen it, well, yeah, it doesn't have subtitles, so there you go. You can jump right over that, and it's fine. It's Tom Hanks. He's good. He's a good actor. He's an empathetic guy. He enlists your empathy. You will like him. That's okay, but it's a January release. That's why it's coming out now, and maybe it actually got released at the end of December. I'm not sure what the official thing is, but it's it's the sort of film that comes out in January. Now, Megan, and I'm not gonna. I mean, that's an interesting film. It's not a great film, but it's better than most horror films that are released in January. And they're playing with some concepts there, the old creepy doll thing and the uncanny valley thing where, if a face is not quite human, but close, it kind of creeps you out, like doll faces do. And sometimes when you have motion capture performances in movies that there's that sort of artificial intelligence sort of face, that's not quite anything, not quite human, but just a little off in ways you can't always say how it's off. But it's an interesting film. I mean, we didn't get a chance to review it last week, but we're reviewing it this week, and it's pretty interesting. Plain is your basic Gerard Butler, actioner, which again, if you're into that sort of thing, it's sort of like the Nicolas Cage Western. It's fine. It serves an audience, a constituency. There are people out there that want to see these movies, and as Keith Garlington points out, these are higher budget movies than the similar themed, Liam Neeson movies. That's really good coffee. This is coffee from Vietnam that somebody put out on the free table at work with a big sign on it that says, "Look out, this is really dangerous coffee. This is dark. If you drink your coffee black, you might not want it." It's good. There's nothing toxic or acidic about this. This is good coffee. So, bring me some more Vietnamese coffee. It's fine. But where was I? Talking about talking about jury action, talking about these movies that sort of serve a purpose. They are commodities, and you got Nicolas Cage, you got a Western. Nicolas Cage says this is his first Western. It's not. Raised in Arizona is a Western in a way, and I think some of the other films that the David Lynch movie that he made, you could make the argument that these are Westerns, because Westerns, well, I write about it in the column, okay? I want to say that, I grew up watching those saturated Technicolor Westerns, and there's something about them that still speaks to me in a way that movies don't always speak to me these days. I mean, it's like I watch movies now, and about 80% of them I just sort of like glide right past. And that's a function of having seen a lot of movies. It's not necessarily a function of the movies not being big anymore or not being, as good as they used to be in the old days. That's not true. If I'd been watching a lot of movies back then, I think I'd probably have the same percentage of like 80% sliding off of me and maybe 10% at either end catching my attention for some reason. But I really kind of grew up on mediocre westerns, because like Five Card Stud with Dean Martin, because that's what my dad watched. My dad watched a lot of those, and he would take me to the movie theater to see them because nobody else would go with him. So he'd grab his 6, 7, 8, 10-year-old kid, and we'd go watch Five Card Stud or one of the Matt Helm movies, not a western, James Bond knockoff. But so it's a genre that I really care about. And the old way, it's really funny because can I say this, Wes? Did we say this on the air? I was on the radio last Friday, and I think this was before we were on the air, so I'm not going to exactly. But I found out something about the movie that I'm not going to share with you, but was interesting about a local connection that was not made. And it's just sort of interesting that we have all these sort of near misses with the movies sometimes. My dad didn't like John Wayne one bit. And he didn't like John Wayne for the same reason a lot of military people, and people are going to argue with me about this, but I know, I lived it. A lot of military people did not like John Wayne in the 60s because of the whole stolen valor thing. I mean, John Wayne was not a draft dodger, but he did not do he didn't serve in World War II. And I know there are people out there saying, oh, he was an OSS officer, he was doing secret missions. He wasn't. Go read a book, go look it up. He was deeply ashamed, and I'm not even saying he should have been. He did what a lot of people would have done. He, didn't have to go, so he didn't go. He didn't interrupt his career. And he did do USO stuff. He did make movies that inspired people. He was not told by FDR, you are too valuable making these movies to go fight. None of that happened. He was not a hero. And he probably wasn't a bad guy either. He was just somebody who made a choice that didn't endear him to a lot of military people. My dad did not like John Wayne. The Green Berets was one of the films that he hated because it's all so inaccurate and just it's just preposterous. But boy, did he like The Searchers. The Searchers, for a long time, I would have said that was my favorite movie. And I would have said that was my favorite movie basically to honor my dad because I'm not sure it was his favorite movie, but it was one of the ones that he really liked. And it's one of the ones he really liked that actually has some, heft and that you could make a case for as one of the great American films, okay? And I write about this. I'm doing this project where I'm writing a lot about movies from my childhood and from that were important to me, and this is part of that series. This is part of the project I'm doing, and I write more about it in the bigger project. But I'm just trying to share these in this, and I kind of miss those things. I kind of miss those American epics, and it's John Ford is like the most American traditional filmmaker there can be. I'm thinking about 1956, and I'm thinking about that's right on the cusp of the French New Wave. I'm not even sure John Ford realized the French New Wave went on. I'm not sure that he ever interacted with it or ever thought about what they were doing because he was all about these big static shots and the setting things up on trolleys and doing these big, epic films with big stars and doing them very, very well. The Searchers is as American movie as you can get. It is very conflicted. It is critical of Manifest Destiny. It's critical of the way the Indians were treated. At the same time, it's borderline racist. It's an amazing film. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Even though there are people out there now who'll tell you that it's problematic and you probably shouldn't watch problematic stuff. I just don't get this. I really don't. Like this whole business. I think I'm not even going to name them. This Critics Association that sort of condemned Tar because it was basically about a bad person. So, I guess we cannot make movies about bad people anymore. And we cannot, if we do make these movies about bad people, we cannot depict them as human or as having any sort of redeeming quality. I just don't get that. There's a big difference between making a movie about a problematic character and making what I would say a problematic movie, because I agree that there is some art that's bad for you. There's some art that's just, you do not improve yourself by watching it, There are things I can think of that you probably shouldn't waste your time with. Not Tar. Tar's a really good movie. Borderline great movie. Has some wonderful scenes. Has a lot to chew on. In fact, I think it's more fun to talk about that movie and to think about that movie than it is to actually watch that movie. I think Keith and I had that conversation after we saw it in the screening. Anyway, so all I would ask is that we still have put a warning label on The Searchers, put a warning label on Tar if you want. I mean, we already have, ratings R, like PG-13. I think that, these films ought to provoke people. That's what movies ought to do. Movies shouldn't just be this kind of narcotic that sort of, allows you to just slip into another universe. That's fine. That's fine. Everybody needs escape. Everybody needs transport. But I want movies like The Searchers and like Tar. I want these things that are problematic, that make you think about how we live today. And I had this whole rant about, movies in ordinary time, movies that are not about extraordinary things and extraordinary people and superheroes and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with a superhero movie. It's just that there ought to be, it's just that it is possible to use a movie camera to explore, all kinds of human experience and universal human experience, very, very specific human experience that thereby becomes universal. And the way to do that is to, make honest movies about things that actually are going on. Anyway, I've gone on longer than I wanted to. I really just wanted to make it like a little 5-minute thing, like this is what's coming out this week. This is why we're doing this. And I didn't even get into the whole thing about why we're doing this, did I? Well, maybe later. And I don't even have a new theme song. I was going to do another theme song maybe, but that'll hold. I start my class next week, so these probably will get shorter because I'll have more to do. So I'll see you at the movies, or maybe I won't. But thanks for tuning in, and take care.